So this is the parts list for today, and we are going to be building one awesome budget gaming PC that is just going to be great for HD gaming and just a little bit of fun, just a fun little gaming PC. First up we have the Aura GC5, which is a case from Gumdias. I've actually never used their cases, I've never tried one, but these were on a really good special on Evetech, so I grabbed it. Got another one for another build as well, and I'm going to be using this. It's an interesting case. This one was 700 Rand, which is about $40 maybe. It has a built-in screen. It's just a little, not an LED, a little LCD screen for temperature measurement. And it also has a mesh front panel, and it comes with 3 fans pre-installed, but those are fixed RGB fans, so you won't be able to change the colors on those. Those are basically budget fans. Companies do this to save a little bit of money because they don't have to make it customizable. Then we have a MSI H310M motherboard. It's just a little small form factor motherboard. This has a Ryzen 3 8100, which is okay for budget gaming. It has the motherboard and CPU and RAM came together. It had 4 gigs of DDR3 2666 speed RAM. I added another 8 gigs of 3200 megahertz, but it's going to default to the lower speed. This is of course a very budget motherboard, but you know, it's good enough for the build that we're doing today. It only has 2 USB 3 ports, but it does have 6 USB ports in total, and also an HDMI output there. Then, moving on to the graphics card, we have the GTX 1060 6 gig. And when it comes to budget gaming, this is sort of like the new champion, because this card can run any game at medium settings at least, and for the most part you can turn the texture quality up to high or very high because of that 6GB VRAM. And for budget gaming, this card serves you well. This is that classic Shroud from MSI. I don't like it very much, but it does the job. The card doesn't run very hot. And this is of course the OC version of the card. Not the best looking card, but not too bad. Then we have a Team Group solid state drive. This is a 512 drive. Not much to say about this. It's just a standard SSD here, and the motherboard of course doesn't have NVMe support. Apart from that, we also have a custom, we have a stock normal 1TB Western Digital Blue hard drive. This is just going to be for storage and storing games. You don't want to run your operating system off of this. It's going to be too slow. And then lastly here, we of course have a power supply, and this is an interesting one. This is a Vantech Iron 2. This is a 600 watt unit, and I know the brand Vantech, but I've never used it before. Maybe in old cases, but never with power supplies. So this power supply must be a few years old, but you know, I got it in a bundle, and it only cost me like $5, which for a 600 watt power supply is really not bad. And it has blue cables, which I'm very unsure about. I might swap this out for another 600 watt unit depending on what it looks like, but I thought I'm going to give it a try. I've never used blue cables, but it's very specific since, you know, this is sort of like a white card, so it really depends on how the PC turns out. But I think let's give it a try and see what it looks like. So in terms of capacity, this is more than enough, but it is an older unit. And that's more or less it for the parts. Just to quickly run through what this cost me to get. The motherboard, CPU and RAM came in a different PC, which had a case that I'm going to resell, but it's just a cheap little case. It had the hard drive in it, and it had 4 gigs of RAM, and that's about it. That cost me 2,400 Rand, which is about $170. Then the graphics card I got today, that cost me 1,400 Rand, which is about $80, maybe a little bit less. The power supply I spent like at most $10 on. The Team Group SSD was bought new. That was 450 Rand, which is about $25. I think that's more or less what they go for. And the case is new, but it was in a really good special. I paid 700 Rand for this, which is about $40. And then lastly, the extra RAM I bought new. I paid 570 Rand for it for an 8 gig stick. That is about $30, something like that. So all in all, we're looking at a sub $500 PC, maybe even sub $400. I'll do the calculations at the end precisely. This is just an indication of what I paid more or less. So these are going to be the parts. I think it's going to make for a pretty cool PC and I'm excited to build it. Let's do it. Alright, getting into the benchmark for Far Cry New Dawn, and right off the bat, starting out with 60 FPS average here, looking pretty good. This is running at HD Ultra, so of course you're gonna have some spikes as it loads different things in the level, but so far this is looking pretty good to me. We are at 66 average right now, running at about 80 FPS. It's going to drop in a bit when we get to the combat scene. But for what the PC cost, this is a pretty good result. Definitely a playable result. And So far it hasn't really gone below 60, it just dipped to 50 there for a second, but really looking quite good. 46 the lowest now, and of course visually it's quite impressive at the ultra setting at HD. And that's the thing about gaming now. We've moved to a space where these sort of systems are cheap to build and they can handle games at, you know, medium to ultra depending on the game. So definitely a good result. Let's see the end result here. So we are looking at 62 average, 46 minimum, and 89 maximum. So a very stable result. That's looking pretty good. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, getting into the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark, and this is running at the high preset at HD, and again it looks pretty good. Now I apologize for the glare on the screen. Unfortunately it is a little bit bright in this room, but I think you can see decently. And so far we are getting around that 45 to 60 mark, and this is quite a demanding part of the level to run, and it's interesting to me the way that it is running, because we are running an i3 an i3 8100, and yeah, it's not struggling too much. It does drop to 40, and that's when you have a lot of you know, a lot of people loaded in, because they are pretty hard on the CPU. But scenes like this one will probably do quite well because it's more GPU intensive. And so, you know, if I were playing this game, I would probably put it on medium just to stay at that 60 mark. But it is definitely playable at high, and it will probably be playable at ultra high as well. But, you know, this is a light gaming PC because of the CPU, and of course the 12 gigs of RAM, which I think having an i3 8th gen and 12 gigs of RAM makes sense together. 8 gigs is a little bit too little right now, but 16 gigs is maybe overkill for an i3 8th gen i3. So I think that there's a good balance in this system in terms of the parts, and of course the 1060 6GB complements those parts quite well. So I think the assembly of parts makes sense, and of course the game is running very well. You know, especially the outdoor scenes with less strain on the CPU, and you'll see now when we tilt to the village with the people, it will drop to maybe about the 30s, but for the most part you're gonna get around 60 FPS. So definitely a good result so far. Not a lot of pop in either, so I think the system is just running quite well, everything in tandem, just running well the way it should be. And I do honestly think this is maybe the best budget system I've built, because the parts are just working so well together. Now unfortunately, for some reason I'm struggling to get Afterburner to work. It hasn't been working on any of the PCs I've tried lately. I'm not sure what's happening with that. Maybe I need to download a new one. But yeah, the built-in benchmark is good enough to just check, and we do get the result at the end, so it's not too bad. But yeah, just dropping to the 40s, not even 30s, so it still remains playable, and it still looks good. And this is of course running at HD as well, so you know, a system like this isn't going to break the bank, and you're going to get some good gaming out of it if that's all you are interested in doing. I wouldn't recommend this system for design work because of that i3, but just for light gaming and for, you know, normal office work, this system is going to be perfect. Okay, so let's take a look at the result here. You can see that that graph is quite stable, not too bad there. The CPU and GPU working in tandem quite well. And then if you look at the average FPS, we do get just under 60 average, and the minimum comes in at 37 on the CPU, on the GPU, 120 max on the GPU, and 59 average. So yeah, I think it's quite a good result. As you can see, we are running at a high, one or two things set to normal there, but mostly high, and definitely a good result. So yeah, like I said, everything is running well. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, getting into the Hitman benchmark. This is Hitman 1 from a couple, maybe, you know, 5 years ago or so, but the sequels also use the same graphics APIs and stuff, so it's pretty close in performance. I should probably update my catalog of benchmarks at some stage, But yeah, we are getting, it's a little bit small there, but we are getting 65 average so far, running at about 100 right now. The minimum is 6, so it dipped very low at some stage, but overall it's running quite well. We are at 73 average now, and it is rising steadily. And we are running at high, so this is HD high, and yeah, definitely looking good so far. You know, like I said in the previous one, everything is working well in tandem, and I feel like most games you'll be able to play at high, and some games you'll play at medium, but you'll definitely have a good result with a PC like this. The average is now at 70, dropping a little bit as we get the crowds coming in, putting a bit more strain on that CPU, and yeah, it's going to start rising again now, but it's definitely a good result. And this is a game with a lot of detail as well, which is always to me quite striking. It's definitely a good looking game, and yeah, definitely it is running well. Just under 70 for that average now, but it will build up again a little bit later. We should end on about 75 if I had to guess. And yeah, like I said, it's a good result. It's a good looking game. It's not too difficult to run now because it is a bit older, but it's definitely a good looking game, and it's definitely a good result. So yeah, definitely did well on this one. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, getting into the game here, Doom Eternal, and this is running at HD high. And we are looking currently at right about 100 FPS, so that's pretty good. My mouse is a little bit quick here, but yeah, definitely looking pretty good here. Let's see when we get into some combat now how it does. We are going to be fighting against a few grunts here, so let's see how we do. Dropping down to the 80s, still around that 100 mark, not too bad. Getting around 70 now, and this, remember, this is the outside section. Let me just turn out that mouse a little bit. This is the outside section, so it's not the easiest, you know, in the game. It's not exactly difficult to run either, but it's not the easiest part of the game to run. And we are getting about 120 here. We seem to be... let me just kill these guys. So, if you take a look here, we are getting around 11 milliseconds of latency, around 100 FPS still, so it stays around that 100 mark, and the CPU is clocked at 3.6 here. It's the i3-8100. It's maybe a little bit difficult to see on screen, but yeah, and it is running at HD, 1920 by 1080, and we are running on high settings. So we are doing quite well. Let's move on to the other area, and then maybe just quickly an internal area just to see the difference. It feels quite good. Doesn't feel bad at all. You know, I've played it smoother, but it's not a bad result. Like I said, it feels decent, and it's quite smooth. Let me kill this guy. Yeah, and we haven't really dropped below 80, which is obviously quite good. And you know, in terms of how demanding this gets, this is at the sort of high points of it. It's not like the graphics gets a lot better, or there's like a lot more intensive areas or anything like that. So yeah, this is a good representation of what the game will run like, just overall what it's going to look and feel like. And you can pump this up to ultra and it'll still be okay. It won't make too much of a difference, but I just feel like at high it's pretty smooth. And you know, if I were playing through the game on this computer, this is the sort of settings that I would play in, because visually it doesn't look really different. But of course this card does have a 6 gigabyte video RAM size, so you know, that's decent. it'll be okay for running at ultra on most games. Maybe not like Red Dead Redemption or anything like that, but you know, mostly it'll be fine. So I'm going to go into a more open area now, and we'll see how that does. Sorry, I'm struggling with this keyboard. It's just an office keyboard, so it's quite difficult to game on. Okay, let's take a look here. Also an office mouse. I haven't gamed on something like this since I was a kid. It's getting around 130, so that's quite good. Wow, this keyboard sucks. I'm just going to move on. Drop to 70 there. Still remains just such a fun game. Just so satisfying to play, you know, just to like kill these mobs. It's just so fun to do. When a game does that, like that's the recipe for success, I think, is the gameplay just being like ridiculously fun. Gotta kill another one of these big guys. Just gonna see if we can get that. No. I'm gonna die. Okay. Where are we at? We are running at around 80 now, and we've been playing for a bit, and it's still like, you know, the temps are, well, I don't know what the temps are, but it seems good. It seems like the PC isn't heating up too much, so that's also a pretty good sign. Doesn't seem bad at all. Yeah, and the performance is quite consistent. We are still getting around 90 FPS here, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result, to be honest. It's quite good. Okay, it seems like it's going to be a while before I get to like an internal section, so I'm just going to probably call it around here now. Just need to get this video done. But yeah, overall, really happy. It's a really good result. And yeah, I feel like a PC like this is well suited to a game like Doom. And you know, games like with these sort of graphics and well, the thing about Doom as well is it is very well programmed. It is very well optimized because it does look better than it, like it looks better than other games that run worse than it, if I can put it that way. So yeah, I do feel like Doom is quite a good example of good graphics at good frame rates as well. And we are internal now. Let me just kill one or two of these guys. Yeah, and it's around 100 now, so not a big difference, but definitely smooth. And as you can see, the game just runs really well. So yeah, excellent results on this one. Really happy with how the PC did. I feel like it did quite good. So let's do the outro and let's talk about it. Okay, so that's it for the PC. Yeah, really good result. I'm really happy with it. You know, for what this PC cost, you know, being a sub, it has to be almost sub $300 computer. It did really well. I'll do a calculation of what it actually cost, and I'll just put it on here on the screen somewhere for you to see. But I think it cost like $300 to $350 if I had to guess. So really good result for that kind of money. Everything we played was super solid, averaged 60 across the board at HD high settings, so not much to complain about, to be honest. It runs really well, so yeah, it's a good result. Especially Doom ran really well, and you know, if you're going to play esports games like your Counter Strikes, your Rocket Leagues, your Dotas, your LOLs, those will be knocked out of the park by this as well. So if you're someone that's getting into gaming but you want a PC that still plays quite well, get something like this. You really don't need to break the bank to be competitive. You know, Rainbow Six Siege, even Call of Duty at medium settings, this will do well with those kinds of games. So yeah, you know, it doesn't have to be expensive to start gaming. You just need to be smart about what you choose. But duplicate a system like this. I feel like this is a really good middle point for money compared to value now. Because these parts are cheap now because it's a couple of years old and it's second hand and it's pretty easy to find as well. So yeah, really well done for the PC. I think it looks cool, it's cheap, and it runs well. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.